All right, so last time was all about sensations, how we take it in, how we start kind of bringing it all together. And today, or this one, is all about how we take those sensations that we're starting to make some sense out of, and then we start building them all together to create what we call our perceptions. And for the record, most of this involves the visual stuff, but the same basic principles apply to whether it be auditory, what you smell, what you taste, what you hear, all that kind of stuff. So, when it comes to our perception, what happens is all that stimuli is taken in and is organized into recognizable patterns and have meaningful experiences. And again, by meaningful, within this connotation, we're talking about we can make sense of it. All right, we can make sense of what's going on around us and all that other good stuff. And again, this is where psychophysics kind of comes up again, where uh, how stimuli can affect our experiences. And then kind of where we're going at now is with this stimulation that we're starting to make sense out of, our brain is going to lock in or use certain cues to lock down what we are experiencing. So, this face, not mine, but the one above me. Which way is he looking? And what happens is, and kind of what happens with our brain is, depending on what you're looking at, that is, your brain is going to pretty much come up with either that face is looking to the side or that face is looking at you. So that's really just kind of how this stuff works. And in essence, what we have to do is, as humans, we have to learn to perceive. And because, well, when you were born, when you were a baby, you were blind. Not because your eyes didn't work, but because you never used your eyes before. And the fact that you are like seeing is actually really complicated. There's a lot of different little micro muscle movements. Your iris is to dilate just right to help you focus. Then that's just the mechanics of it. So like if you're ever looking at something and you're just tracking it, like you're just following it with your eyes, what you have to do is there's your muscle movements in your neck, there's your muscle movements in your eyes, there's your muscle movements within your eyes, and then once you start taking in all that information, um, it has to work. It has to be sent to your brain, and then your brain has to kind of unencrypt it all again. And so we start simple, learning the human face, and then eventually we move on to more complex shapes that are, you know, more interesting. Because, for example, I don't know if this is true, if this is apocryphal, or whatever, but it was said that when the Europeans arrived to the New World, um, the natives couldn't see their ships. You know, they're big, three-masted ships. The natives couldn't see them. Like they were there in front of them, but they could not see them because nothing in their experience had prepared them just to look at that. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. It was just something I heard in passing, but yeah. So, so then Gestalt kind of comes in again, and Gestalt is just a fancy German word for pattern or configuration. And again, these are the things that people look for. So proximity, continuity, similarity, simplicity, and the closure. And these, in essence, lock down our perceptions. So, like for example, if you look at this one right here, there's a triangle there, but there's not a triangle there. It's just our brain filling in the missing parts because they already have a bit of an implication that there's something there, but there's no lines. So I draw them in like this. But the simple fact that we can see it, even though there is not one, is our brain filling in the missing pieces. And then figure ground perception. This is how you discriminate. And again, this is kind of like going back to which one is bigger. And yeah, kind of talked about this last time. And then we have to infer. So this is where you have the perceptual inference. And again, we fill in the gaps that our sense of what our senses tell us. So then we see this one, like which one do you see? Is it two faces or is it a vase? What is it? And this is you filling it in. So again, this is what we mean by making meaning of something, because again, I just give you just some basic shapes and you fill in the missing pieces. And as you fill in the missing pieces, that is helping you make sense out of whatever the thing that you're experiencing. And then you have this idea of subliminal perception. Now, the idea of this is brief auditory visual images below the absolute threshold. So you're taking in information, but you don't realize that you're taking this information in. And there's very little proof of this actually working. It's very controversial. It does make a good plot for movies and TV and games and stuff like that. But yeah, for the most part, we found this doesn't work. Yeah, subliminal messages, no. At least the way it's often portrayed. Because right now, there's actually a subliminal message that you're being bombarded with right now. And that message is telling you to like, share, subscribe, and give me money. I'm kidding. No, there's actually another message. And it's this one. So if you just look in the Tostitos brand, you have two people holding a chip with a bowl of salsa. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to see that and you're supposed to go, oh, okay, I'm going to buy a bag of chips and some salsa and then I'm going to eat it with my friends. Yeah, did not really work. But again, it's one of those things. It's a nice little, I guess, plot device. But but kind of where all this stuff started was someone did a study involving a movie in a movie theater, and they were showing like during the movie. This was done like in the 50s or the 40s or something like that. And they were showing like split-second images of Coke and popcorn and all the other stuff in the movie. And the theory was if people saw this, they would go and buy Coke and popcorn during the movie. I'm sorry, the hypothesis, not the theory. And yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. Then when it came out, it was very controversial. And then from there, we got our depth perception. This is because, again, we have two eyes. Because we have two eyes, this enables us to have depth perception. And because, again, we live in a three-dimensional world. And because of our three-dimensional world, we have, again, things come at us like cars and people and, hey, this person is in front of this person and there's a ball coming towards me and, you're on the baseball field or something. Three-dimensional things that's the world that we live in. So the simple fact that we have two eyes and they both look at things at a slightly different angle, because again, if you do this, if you take one eye, close one eye, and then switch them, close the other eye and then open the eye that you had closed. If you just switch back and forth, you'll notice things will kind of shift back and forth just a little bit. And what happens is our eyes actually look at things from two different angles. And they take in that information from those two different angles. It's sent to your brain, and then again your brain puts it all together. But this is the thing that enables you to recognize that, oh, three dimensions. And yeah, that's why we're not all like, two-dimensional. It's literally because we have two eyes. And then you have the idea of constancy. So when we perceive an object, we tend to view them all the same way. So again, there's a certain way you open a door. And again, that's where you get like the Far Side meme where you have, and all of us have been here, where you walk up to a door, you grab it, then you pull it, and it doesn't do anything. And then you'll notice that there's a sign that says pull. And again, the reason why that is a thing is because of constancy. You know how to open a door. You know how to open a book. You know how to, do kind of like those basic things because, again, you open a book the same way. It doesn't matter if it's a textbook, a big book, a little book, a long skinny book or whatever. That's constancy. So you perceive an object and then you then fill in the missing parts on how to do that. Even if you've never seen that specific door or that specific book or whatever, you know how to open, again, a bottle of water. Even though there's metal bottles, there's plastic bottles, there's glass bottles, there's so many kinds of bottles out there. You got your Coke bottles, you got your Fanta bottles, you got your Ozarka bottles. But again, in the end, you all open them the same way. That is constancy in a nutshell. And then your illusions. And an illusion, in short, is just incorrect perceptions. So what happens is things are distorted in a way so that way your brain cannot correctly interpret that stimulus. So things like size, shape, depth, any visual illusion will do this to you. Um, Auditory illusions, that kind of stuff. But again, visual kind of works easier for this. But so like if you just look at the dice, those are kind of not right. If you try to follow up and down the path. And the tattoo thing, I just left that in there as a distraction. But again, this is how an illusions works, because they imply something. Your brain fills in the missing pieces, and then you're not, and then your brain just can't figure out what it is. And so that's why you will see like a verbal or a visual contradiction. And then last but not least, you have you got ESP, and pretty much there's kind of four types, and things Star Wars, Jedi, Sith, that kind of thing. But you got clairvoyance, is where people perceive things without sensory input, telepathy, reading somebody's mind, psychokinesis, moving objects by mental effort, precognition, the ability to foretell events. Here's the thing. No solid data, very little constancy and found in everything, very little consistency as well, and way too many frauds. But the idea is you're receiving information from something other than your five senses. Now, some people swear by this. Some people say it's frauds. I kind of lean more towards not quite Billy. But again, it's there. It's kind of just, people say it's a thing, but it is what it is. But in short, this is kind of how our perceptions work. So again, what are those things that we perceive? And because remember, in the end, we're perceiving in order to, in essence, understand what's happening in the world around us. And again, it literally means, hey, something smells. I guess it's dinner time. And that thing that I'm smelling smells good. So I'm going to enjoy this dinner. That's what we mean by meaningful. All right, it's just those kind of basic ideas or those basic modes that we have where we are walking down the hall or we're walking outside. Maybe we're going to go check the mail or something. We see a dog. We take in that stimulus and then we go, oh, that is a big dog. That is a big scary dog. Or that's a little chihuahua. Okay, we understand those different things. And then that dog starts barking at you. It's a big dog. Okay, you're a little bit more leery. If it's a little chihuahua, you'll look at the dog and go, I can drop kick him across the yard. But again, that's what we mean by meaningful. Like, you are understanding how to operate in all the different domains of life that you're in. All right, whether it be go getting the mail, you're going to class, you're going to work, you're driving down the road. You understand what is happening around you. All right, that's what and again, our perceptions help us with this. Taking the information, arrange it, make sense of it. Once we're able to make sense of it, then we're able to start interpreting this. Start interpreting what's happening around us. So that way we can, you're in an elevator with someone. You're going to interpret it very, very differently than if it's a mother and a kid going into the elevator with you versus a dude wearing a hockey mask wielding a bloody machete. You're going to interpret those two things differently. All right. So, sorry. So yeah, so that's pretty much all about this. And I got nothing left to say, and I am out.